Hey, Jesus, how are you, sir? How's everything today? So far, you're the only one here, but that's okay. So it's good to see you, Jesus. How's everything? Let's see. Today we're going to continue Tierney, which is pretty cool. I was going to do a different project, but I want to see this painting done, you know, and I really love this painting, so that's why we're going to continue with Tierney. Plus, there's really a lot to teach here, especially when I start going into skin texture, which I basically am going to be calling this particular episode Skin Texture. So that's going to be a lot of very informative. So that's good. And sound and picture is good. Thank you, sir. So glad. I'm going to send a quick email just to everyone. So in case they didn't get it, so let me do this real quick. Jesus, how's your artwork going? I love what you did over the weekend. And it's great to experiment. That's all exciting stuff. So keep experimenting. Keep pushing the paint. And experiment with everything, right? That's what Cass Fuller said to me years ago. And let's see. And what I'm going to do is I just have to get the live stream from here. Let's see. Okay, cool. So now I have this. I'm just going to send the email. It'll just be 1 minute. Hey, Colette, how you doing? Hi, Blue. Good to see you guys. So glad you can make it. I'm just going to send out the email to everybody. And so this way, no one has an excuse not coming. So, good to see everybody. Let me make sure we got everything. Hey, Marshall, how you doing? Thank you, sir. Tierney is amazing. She was just an amazing beauty. And just, I don't know why she doesn't get more attention than the other beauties of the day. So that's maybe one of the reasons why I love painting her. This is like maybe my 4th live stream painting Tierney. So if anyone will tell me that I'm obsessed with her, guilty as charged. So Louis, it's good to see you, and Colette, everybody. I'm going to go get a seltzer. I think I have some grapefruit seltzer. I'll be right back. Yes, so I have some grapefruit seltzer, which is very exciting, so I'm happy about that. Let's see, where am I? I'm over here. So here's my grapefruit seltzer, and it's pure Aqua brand from Aldi's, only the finest stuff for me, right? And so it's so cool you guys are here. I'm just going to take a sip of this, and then we'll dive right in. Oh man, that is so good. That's ridiculously good. Okay, so, hey, what's up there, Mr. Roy? How are you, sir? Hey, Paul, good to see you guys. So glad you guys came in, and I'm so happy to see you. And let me see if I can darken this just a little bit. What I can do is, I believe, I can just increase the contrast a little bit. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Right, that's really good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we'll come over here and we'll get to work. Okay. Remember, when you first, even though I've been painting all day, whenever you start off, you always do your first couple of sprays on a test paper. It's very important. Oh, yes, it really is, Blue. She's really beautiful. It's just amazing, you know. I'm going to also move my fan so it's actually on me as opposed to just on the wall. So before I start, I want to talk a little bit about photography. So if you see here as a reference, I'm going to make the reference picture a little big so we can see it. Now, I don't know if I talked about it last week, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's super important. Back in the 1940s and 50s, but mostly the 40s, the late 30s, this lighting was coined as paramount lighting. And it was a lighting that was used by Paramount almost exclusively. And one of the interesting things about this is that as time went on, a lot of the actresses had in their contracts that they could only be photographed with this kind of lighting. And it's a very it's a very complimentary and elegant lighting, and it's also called butterfly lighting because of the shape on the nose. And it's the shape right here is under the nose is like a butterfly. So that's the term butterfly lighting. And paramount lighting, you'll hear that phrase, and that has to do with the movie studio that made it famous, Paramount. So back in the day. So that's why it's so important. Photography is so important if you want to become a successful airbrush painter, pastel painter, oil painter, artist. It's really important. Oh, I'd love to talk about photography, definitely. But it's so important because if we're working from photographs, then we need to understand photographs. And so the only way to understand photographs is to take them and to study them and to do it yourself. And then you can understand what the photographer's doing if you're not working from your own reference. If you're working from another photographer's reference, like in this case, you want to understand what their thinking was so you can be kind of in line with that. So that's what I teach my students. We actually are going into photography and how important and crucial photography is to understand light, to understand all of those aspects. That's going to make you a better airbrush painter. I hear a lot of people say, do you need to draw to be an airbrush painter or an airbrush artist? You don't, but if you want to be better, if you want to express yourself more, then you draw. Wendy and Patty, how are you two? How's everything? Then you're going to need to have more tools. It depends on how deep you want to go. If you want to go totally deep and express yourself and do truly unique paintings that are your own, then it's really important to draw. It's important to basically take my mentorship class, because I will help you to have the tools to not just be an airbrush artist, a tool to be an artist who uses airbrush. And I think everybody would much rather be an artist that uses airbrush than be an airbrush artist. What if you can't get to a compressor? What do? Well, I teach you how to do digital art so you can do a digital painting. What if you can't get to a compressor and you can't get to a computer? I teach you how to use a pencil and all these different things that are going to be really important to help you to be the artist that you long to be, right? So now I have my airbrush cooked, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this eye. And what's beautiful about this eye is this shadow that's created. And if I look at this shadow, I can see that right here it's at its darkest point, and then it gets lighter, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to increase our distance as we go towards the center area here. And you see, by doing this, by making this lighter at that edge, it's creating a little more sense of air and light, and that's what you want to do. We don't want to just copy grays, right? We don't want to be a monkey see, monkey do. We really want to understand what we're doing, and it's gonna make you have more fun. in your painting. You're going to be more excited, and you are going to create more art, and you're going to be like, oh, I can't wait to get to the next one. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to feel that. Rick, how's it going? So cool you're here. And so that is great, and so glad everybody is here. Thank you for coming by today. I appreciate it, or tonight. And so now we did this. Let's go ahead and look at the eyebrow. Now, some people will go ahead and paint the eyebrow. Maybe me years ago would have painted the eyebrow. But it's really a tale of different values. So the eyebrow kind of disappears here. So we make it disappear in our painting, right? That's important. See how we kind of make it disappear there, and then it gets dark at the end. So let's do paint it as it is. And it is tempting to go ahead and say, I'm just going to paint that eyebrow right in there, right? That's tempting. But we're not going to succumb to temptation. And I'm going to really look at this eyebrow, not as an eyebrow, but a series of shapes and values. But also with an understanding of what makes her eyebrow. And Mr. Todd, good to see you. How are you? So glad you're here, my friend. And we'll go ahead and paint in the dark here. Okay, so what we do on one eye, of course we do on the other eye here, and we'll work on her other eye. And let's see, so we'll bring this over. Let me clean my glasses. Oh, what's the matter, Todd? You got a cold or something? So sorry to hear that, sir. Hope you feel better. I'm just going to bring on over the other eye. And again, let's really see the eyebrow for what it is, not for what we think an eyebrow is. So I'm going to really study it in its different parts. What areas is it lighter? Is it darker? What areas does it just disappear into this value here? All those different things. As it goes out here, what does it do? Do I have too much value over here? Is it too dark? Yes, it is. And all these different things I can do to pay attention and create a painting that really does her justice. Now, the weather's messing with you. Oh, I hear a lot about people with allergies, you know? So that's rough. And it gets real thin over here. And we may just thin this out later with the eraser. And then right over here it gets real soft edge. So I'm just going to increase my distance to like 7 inches as I move over here. Right there. And then right here. Just like so. We'll make that light, and then we'll come in. go. And now we can really work on that iris and the beautiful darks, setting up for those really beautiful highlights coming later. And hit and move. You want to be careful that you do not spider. And how you do that is hitting and moving, okay? Hey Brad, how's it going? Be careful with that rain. I know you guys been getting a lot of rain already. So that's kind of rough. There we go. And right over here comes down, and we'll put this dark right there. And now we'll work on these beautiful shadows here. And then we'll work on some of the texture of her eyebrow here. Wow, that's the tale of two different years, right? Oh man, upper 90, in the 80s at night, that's rough. Hello air conditioning, right, Wendy? Okay, now we have some really nice little... Now what I like to do is you want to have good aim, and I see little tiny little areas of like very light, super light little eyelashes on the lower eyelid. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure I have good aim, and then I'll erase as I go. And then I'll come back to that and take care of it. But you see, you want to use your pencil because that's going to help you get aim. And then once you put it down, you can get rid of it. Now, is there anything like that going on the other eye? Let's take a look. There actually is. So we can do that on this eye, right here, and right here. And we have to get that angle, right? So there we go. All right, so now we can pull up and see how it's going. Okay, so you see we worked on those eyes, gave them more life, and now that we gave them more life, we're going to go down the center line, and we're going to do the same with the nostrils, and let's make that happen together. Yes, definitely, Brad, stay safe. So the town close to you, Mendoza, right? Oh my God. Thank you, Blue, I appreciate that. And let's go ahead and blow up her nose. Not blow her nose, blow up her nose. Okay, so by the nostrils, it is, and I have to be careful, I'm going to lower the pressure, and I'm going to be careful not to spider. I'm just going to darken right around there. And then I'm going to slowly increase my distance as I come down, because I want to have the dark of those nostrils, I want them to ease into the lighter area here. Everything is distance. So once you gauge that you're getting a certain value from a certain distance, remember that so you can revisit that value. Right over here we have kind of a soft edge here, so I'm just going to very lightly just move this in just to soften that up a little bit. Same thing in the center here, it's a little bit lighter, so I'm going to very lightly just get that kind of feeling of air, right? We want to feel that air in her nostril there. Oh, great, he played with the air, that's perfect. Hey Cody, how are you doing? Great to see you. So glad you're here, sir. Thank you so much for hanging out. And so now that we did her nose, we can actually move down to the lips. And remember, we're moving down the center line of the body, right? And or in this case, the center line of the face. And let's see if I can zoom in just a little more so you can get an even better view of what's happening here. And so great. So let's go ahead and work on the corner of the mouth. So I'm going to hit and move, right? That's the key. If I stay in the same area, it's going to spider. So I have to hit and move and let that ink catch up to the paper, meaning that start absorbing that paper so I can come back in, right? If I don't do that, then I'm going to pay the price. The painting's going to pay the price, and that's a price I'm not willing to pay. So we have to be patient and just really slowly go ahead and work on these lips. Now this is a very small area. This is like maybe an inch. So with that in mind, you have to realize that since you're painting in such a small area, it's going to actually saturate really fast, and then the ink has nowhere to go, and it's just going to do what? It's just going to go ahead and start spidering. So let's make sure we avoid that. The best defense is not to be there. And so as you can see, we are just moving this over, paying attention to my values and any kind of value shift. And we do have the power of an eraser later, so I have that in back of my head when I'm thinking of other aspects to do. Now, the corner of her lips are not just there like pasted. They kind of fall into the corner of her mouth and go inside her mouth and her skull. So you can see it leaves an indentation as it goes in, just like so. And we have to make sure that we do that. If we don't, it's going to be detrimental to our, our attempt to create realism. And now I'm going to worry about the little darks on the bottom of the lower lip here. Now I'm going to attempt to work on some texture here. And you get texture by paying attention and working from light to dark. That's texture. Texture is painting. It's not using stencils. So you get the texture by slowly building value. And that's the way you do it. Texture isn't something you just spray on. Texture is something that reveals itself after, doing layer upon layer. And you can see when you really look at the shapes and the varying values in those shapes, then those shapes become luminous and you start to see the light that is in the so-called shadows. One of the things I teach in my classes is that there's no such thing as a shadow. The only shadow you do see is a cast shadow, and that's the only shadow. Everything else is different degrees of light. Remember that. Light at different intensities, okay? If you think of it that way, it's going to be much better for your understanding. And if everything is light, then you're really not just painting value, but you're looking for the myriad details inside of value. It's a lot more complex, but in the complexity there's also a simplicity of it, that you're not looking at these two worlds of light and shadow, but it's just one world of varying strengths of light. And look at the degree, or the varying degree of textures that you can get without even using white yet, just in different grays. And then when you come in with your darkest darks and your lightest lights, that's when everything starts to explode. But don't try to eat the cookie before it's cooked. You have to wait the full 60 minutes at 425 degrees or 385, whatever kind of cookies you're making. Otherwise, if you take them out and start eating them, you're going to get a stomach ache. So you have to, same thing with a painting, you have to wait for it to cook before you can say, oh, that looks good, or that's a good job, or what have you. Take your time. That's so crucial. It really is. Yeah, so if your photo is out of focus, then the best you can do is have an out of focus painting, right? So it's really important to get the best quality photos that you can. I think that's really important. So that's something to always keep in mind. So always keep that in mind, definitely. And so we're just going to continue moving along, and you see how we do that. So now we did that. Now we could start moving on some of the areas that we are kind of ignoring, right? So I'm going to do this part right over here on her neck, right? This dark on her neck. So I'm going to put a shield on here, so I don't dirty up areas I don't want to dirty up. So let's see. So I want to, oh, hopefully that wasn't the shield I'm wanting. Let's see. Let's see what I got. So I want to cover just her beautiful face. So hopefully I have that. Keep our fingers crossed. I hope. I do have it. Yes. But this also includes her neck, which kind of defeats the purpose unless I could find a different one. Let's see. Okay, so far no dice, but I'm not giving up. Now I do have an envelope in here, and a lot of times when I have an envelope, I'll put some of the smaller little shields I have, and that might save me. So let's see. Nope. Okay. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. We're going to earn it. So let's see. Bear with me, guys. So we want to work on the neck. So I am just going to go ahead and paint that neck and just be extra careful. So this is a hard edge, but the good thing is it's not super hard over here. So I can zoom in and show you. So we'll come right over here. And here it's kind of hard edged, but then it kind of breaks up. So right here it's kind of hard edged, and then it breaks up a little bit. Hey David, how's it going, sir? And so we have David here. That's great. So good to see you. So John Payne, Total Pain, he had surgery yesterday. So if everyone could send good thoughts his way for a speedy recovery, that would be great. Because he's a regular and a student, and just an overall great guy. So I just want to make sure that we all give him some really good vibes out there, and make sure that he is feeling great. And I really hate it when the great people here are not feeling well. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. And Wendy, thank you. Really appreciate that. Sending those good messages, good vibes out to him, And thank you, Jesus. And so he'll be back joining us in no time. Just an overall great guy, and we're all going to celebrate when he comes back. Maybe we'll have Wendy make a cake. Right, Wendy? Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. And, that's so cool of everybody. Oh, I would love you to make, Wendy, a strawberry cake with vanilla icing. I kind of like that combination. But he likes the color orange, so we would have to make a cake that has orange, because that's the thing with John. Believe it or not, he's one of the few people I ever met who their favorite color was orange. A lot of times you see him wearing orange, and you see his logo is orange, so that's pretty cool. Hey Raul, thank you. That's so great. Oh, and Blue, so Blue, you're not feeling well either? Tell me what's going on with you, Blue. I know you had problems with your hand, if I'm not mistaken. Ah, thank you, David. I appreciate that. David said he thought my painting was a reference. That's cool. Oh no, on your right hand, and you had surgery, and is it painful, or are they giving you meds to kind of level things out? So sorry you had to go through that. Thanks, Roy, sending those good messages for John. And Blue, I hope you feel better. I pray you feel better real soon. And thank you for hanging out here, especially after you had surgery today. I did not know. Thank you. We're all sending good vibes your way, including myself, Blue, so you feel better real fast, okay? So this might be the best place for you. Or one of the best places. Ah, medication is good. Definitely. Definitely. And let's see, we're going to move over here and let's see. Okay, cool. So we work down here. Let's go back here again. And notice I'm not just painting shapes. I'm looking at the complexity of those shapes. And back to understanding photography, this dark shape over here, right here, there's a lot going on because although it's a shadow and a deep shadow, I'm not sure if it's hair or if it's just a deep shadow cast from the hair, from the side light. But there is some detail here. That means that some light is actually escaping. And if I'm not mistaken, it's from the side light that you see here is kind of escaping into this area right here. Whether it's the hair or a shadow, I'm not sure. But if we can get out of the dogma that it is quote-unquote shadow, then we can start seeing the details and looking for the details in the same way that we look for in the quote-unquote light areas. And I am going to put this on her, and this way I'm going to be able to hit this dark over here, this dark edge. So I'm going to put some magnets on there, and I'm going to hit that dark edge because I want a real strong edge, and I want an even degree of value. So I'm just going to make sure I hit this correct. You always want to spray away from the shields. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this one area, but I'm going to lift it up and make sure, keeping this over here and over here, I'm just going to lift it up and make sure that I hit it correctly. And I didn't quite, I can see it comes in just a little bit. So it's good to really test it out before you're okay to commit to it. So I'm just going to move this in just a teeny tad, just like so, and then there. Okay, move this up to the edge, and now I can sort of, now you got to be careful because you can get some skating along this little shield here, so you want to be careful. Still doing the 1 second rule. Even when you're doing something like this, you want to be super careful. Now my goal with this is just to create the edge. That's my only goal, and then I'm just going to take this away. Now there might be some cleanup involved. That's all good. There we go. So we have a nice strong edge here. Let's move this down. You guys didn't even see that. Sorry about that. I still have Jean big here, so let's make Jean smaller. Sorry, Jean. Ah, what did we do to Jean here? Let's hit Control Z. Oh boy, look at that. Something happened to the picture of Jean. I don't know what happened, but we'll make her small here. You know what I'll do? I'll close out the picture of Jean. If I bring her back, she should be fixed. No. Look at that. Okay. So let's go ahead and lower this a little bit. There we go. So we did get that edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, whoop, that was my hat. Just going to fix anything that I missed here. So when you miss an edge like this, you just have to have incredible aim. And I want you to practice your aim, because the aim is the one thing that is always, it's like speed in baseball, right? Speed doesn't have slumps, right? You're always going to be have good speed. Same thing with aim. Aim is always going to be, good aim is always going to be your ally. And you get good aim by doing those practice drills, right? And keep at it. Oh, thank you, David. I appreciate that. And yeah, it did hit like old TVs, right, Jesus? That's funny. And David says, I just want to say sorry for spamming on all the social media posts. Tim told me I needed to learn. Oh, no, I'm so glad that you're drawing and getting inspired. So definitely, that's so cool. So thank you, David, for all your messages. I really appreciate it. And let's see. So we have that there. Let me bring my reference over. You guys can't see it. I'm using Pure Ref, so you really can't see it. So I'm just going to bring out some of these darks here. I go at 25 psi. You know, I don't think that anyone should go over 25 psi. You're not going to hear me mince words. You want to go at 25 psi. If you are, unless you're doing something like, you know, a mural, or you're doing t-shirts or something, you should not go at more than 20 psi. Well, what if you're using thicker paints? Then thin the paints out. Remember, and I'm talking about work like what I'm doing, right? You know, small work, you know, small head, stuff like that. You never want to go higher. So the question might be, well, what if you're using thicker paint? The only thing I would tell you is thin your paint out until it has the viscosity of these inks. These inks are great because, number one, it teaches you how to paint, but number two, it teaches you what viscosity works best with the airbrush. You know, it's not like we can force the airbrush to shoot the paints. We have to work, the airbrush is the boss. And so we have to make sure that we don't try and put thicker paints and try and compensate for those thicker paints by having a really high PSI. You should never go higher than 25 PSI. And like I say, if you're having troubles, you have to thin out that paint. And it doesn't have to be thick. Remember, paint companies make more money the more you paint with. So if you're using thicker paint, what are you doing? You're painting more. You're using more of their paint, and then you have to buy more paint. Or you can buy their reducer, and then you're spending more money. That's not what you want to do. You want to paint so the airbrush is working correctly. And the airbrush only works correctly when you have thin paints, or it's anything thin going through it. Exactly. Different colors have different viscosity, is so true. And that's a great question. But you definitely have to thin them out differently. You have to figure out how you're going to thin out, like an earth color. Earth colors are different because they have minerals. So you might even find out that you might need a different color than that mineral, that umber color or something like that, a terracotta color. You might be better to mix two other colors that aren't so mineral based, so you can get it. So the main thing, so someone said, well, Tim, why did you go ahead and just work black and white for a while? Number one, I wanted to have an airbrush presence that I wasn't competing against people who have been doing it for years. I wanted to do my own thing. And I've been using India inks for underpaintings of my pastel paintings for years before I started uh, really getting into this, doing just ink paintings. But why I stopped doing airbrush in color was because I wanted to become a master at viscosity and what makes an airbrush work well. If I was working with Golden or Createx and trying to do all these different things and listening to other artists, I would have been all over the place. But the fact I was doing my own thing, my own tests, working with thin inks, I learned that control is not something that you force your airbrush to do. You have to work with your airbrush. You can't bend it to your will, but you can work with it and work together with your airbrush to have unbelievable control, right? I mean, you honestly can see how much control I have. I've only been airbrushing since 2010. There are people who have been airbrushing out there for 20, 30 years. So, but I decided that for me to really master this craft, I had to master the airbrush and the compressor. And I found that 25 psi is as fast as you want to go because of the pressure, because of the detail you can get with 25 psi. If you're going much faster, the ink is coming or the paint's coming out so fast, you're going to have a harder time controlling it. So that's very important. And let's see, Jesus says, yes, especially the white, blue, it has a lot of solids. And that's why if you are working with white, you want to work with zinc white and not titanium white. Zinc white is a much more transparent white, so that's why that would work. Or, like my white mixture is Drew Blair's 50, and I say Drew Blair, not Createx, Drew Blair's 50/50 illustration white because he came up with that. And so I dilute that to the point where it feels like the inks, and that's why it works. It works because I'm working with the airbrush and what the airbrush could do. I have a .30 needle and nozzle. There are .18 airbrush needles and nozzle out there that I can smoke them with this airbrush. Smoke them because I understand pressure and viscosity and distance and all of that. Blue says, that's a great point, Tim. Airbrushes need to be an extension of your hand and vision. So true. 25 at the PSI at the compressor, but they still have a pack valve and a MAC valve to further control. Exactly. When you set it at 25 PSI, that's going to be your maximum PSI, so you're never going over that. There's no reason to go over that unless you're doing a different kind of application in me. But if you're doing a portrait or you're doing something like that and you're going over 25 PSI, you're not controlling you're not working with your airbrush, you're working against it. And you don't want to work against your airbrush. The airbrush has so many wonderful traits to it, and you want to use those traits to your advantage. Am I right? You don't want to suppress those traits. You don't want a thoroughbred horse to push the plow. You want the thoroughbred horse to race, and that's what at least my airbrush is a thoroughbred horse that wants to do that tight detail. So you have to give it what it needs, which is the right PSI, the right viscosity, the right distance. All those different things are really going to make it shine, right? And oh, so David says his is always set at 22, even no matter what I do. I don't know how many people work higher pressure. Yeah, I mean, it's what they're taught, but, and I've been doing this just black and white and now I'm starting to paint in color in airbrush again, and now I know exactly what it takes to control the airbrush, but controlling it is not dominating it, is not making it do what it's not meant to do. Controlling it is using its nature and working with it to get the results that you want, right? That's what you really want to master it. And we're over here, and let's see what we have. Okay, not bad, not bad. Let's see if we could work a little bit on her dress, okay? So, let's come over here, and we have some really nice little darks I'm going to put in. I do have a shield for the dress. Let's see. See if I can find it. Bear with me, my friends. So we have negatives and we have positives. And this is not what I'm looking for. Okay, like this. And here. Let's see. Talks amongst yourselves. I did find it. Kind of looks like a dragon's tooth. Okay. Alright, so you can see I did work in color with this one in the past. And we'll just pull this right over here. So what I want to do is I want to work on this, but I don't want to contaminate the beautiful skin tones I already have. So that's the reason for this. We're just going to put this here. And I can also come into some of the folds as well, so that's going to be good. Jesus says he sprays at 25 psi with airless air-assisted pump. I want a spray gun. Interesting. And well, folks, good night. Oh, take care, Jesus. Always a pleasure, my friend. I will see you Friday morning for class, so that's great. So Jesus is doing great things in class, so always great to see you, my friend. And so thank you for that. And yeah, and see, the thicker paint is really good for t-shirts and everything, but not for what we do. We want thin paint, and that's going to give us that control, you know. So good point there. See you Friday, sir. Okay, so cool. All right, so now we're going to go into her dress. And let's see here. And we'll start towards the back here. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to do some little dots here and there, but we want to make sure that we don't have underspray. Underspray is a new kind of thing that I'm learning about. And underspray is when the ink or paint goes underneath your shield. And that's no fun. And I'll lower my air pressure with my tack valve. And take your time, right? So you want to not rush it. And a lot of times we rush it for whatever reason. We're just used to rushing, and it actually gets into our painting, and we have to suppress that. And this is where the practice of the dots really come into play, right? If you practice the dots, you can really do that when it's really needed. Game time, right? That's what this is. This is game time. And so we're paying attention, but loosely, right? We're not just going to like paint every little thing we see, but we want to repeat a texture. And of course, this makes no sense now, but it will. And we're just getting ready for, so we're setting up for what? Those highlights that are coming, right? That's what we're setting up for. Yes, so sad for Steve, that's for sure. You know, I'm sending prayers out to Steve, and that's really rough. And I know what it's like to lose a dad. It's a real, just hard to even call it. Just a rough time. So yeah, definitely prayers out to Mr. Steve and his family and his dad. Yes, rough weekend, that's for sure. 22 is not bad. That's a good PSI. You know, it works for you. That's what's important. But like I said, you know, a lot of times people are running high PSIs when they really just have to dilute the paint. And I mean dilute the paint. No reducers, no anything like that. Just straight reduction with water. You'd be surprised. One of the things that really helped me was many years ago when I was learning airbrush, and this artist called Cass Fuller, just amazing, amazing artist. And I was asking people, and I was just, you know, I said, Cass, how can I get better? What do you suggest? And he said, play with the paint. Play with everything. Play with different thicknesses and air pressures. And that's where you find your way. And to me, that meant everything. And I don't know, if I didn't have that moment with Cass and he called me up, and this was a long time ago, like 2011, and he just said those magic words to me, and the rest is history. And oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, David. Yeah, it's hard when we lose our dads. Hard is understatement, right? So we're setting up for these the lights that are coming down the line. Very abstract because it's jewels, you know, it's a very abstract area here. And of course we'll get more defined and everything when we work later. I mean, work down the, you know, work on this as we come in with the lighter values. And move this over. And let's zoom out just a tad. So there we are right now. And we're going to work on the dress a little bit. Just work on some of these folds. And this is where you really have to have a shorthand, right? You don't want to be so literal. You want to work on the big shapes. Remember, like when I work on the hair, it's always important to paint the helmet and then paint the hairs. And the same thing, you want to paint the large value shapes of the dress first and then go and get more specific with the folds, right? It's so important to do that. So let me just come here. Let's zoom in. Again, I keep hitting that. Let's see. Okay. Let's work on this area here, right in here. Can I zoom out a little bit? Sure I can. I see what I'm doing wrong. Keep doing that. Okay, bring this down. There we go. And now we're in good shape. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on these large shapes here. Okay, so we have this beautiful dark here, but what we want to do is we want to have our magnet so we kind of really hold this down. This is a no overspray area, no underspray area, no underspray zone. And let's hit this dark right here. Now remind you, this is like my third week doing this, and I'm still in the medium mixture. I mean, still in the detail mixture. So that should tell you something about having patience. Yes, a MAC valve or a pack valve is everything, and why I love my pack valve is that it's so close to the head assembly, which gives you even more accuracy. I'll tell you, I'll go head to head with any Eclipse any day. I don't care. And then, but they can't use my inks. They gotta use Createx. Now go head to head with anyone using a Micron with their Createx and their 4030 and all that. Go head to head with my little Extreme Patriot Arrow, and let's see who wins. Not necessarily. So Wendy says you want to use reducer with acrylics. Not necessarily. Because you definitely want to push it first with the water. You'll find, Wendy, that when you are using, we're talking about Createx, and you want to push that with water as long as you can. And you'll see that you probably won't need the reducer when it comes to that. So that's something interesting to definitely explore. But I always recommend exploring on your own, you know, and having your own findings, you know. And I love to hear what you find, but I find that I can push it with water and in turn really not need hardly any reducer at all. Yeah, you can use regular distilled water now, and that would work just as well as a reducer. Just as well. Because the reducer is really just alcohol. That's really all it is. And alcohol works the same with reducing it as water. It might break up it a little bit, you know, break it up a little bit more, like as a cleaning agent, but as a reducer, water works just as well. I hear a lot of things about the GSI, definitely. And Iwat is a fine company. They make fine airbrushes. I'm not saying that their airbrushes aren't good, but I can say that my little airbrush can kick its ass. That I can say. Excuse my French, guys. But definitely. And it's also what you do with the airbrush, too, you know. How do you modify the airbrush? Do you change it to suit your needs, right? That's what we want to do. We want to change the airbrush to suit our needs. And, oh, Raul, cool. Raul says, Tim, you're right. I use distilled water as well. Exactly. And it works just as well, doesn't it? And they're not charging you a crazy amount for water that you're paying for the 4011, 4012, 4013. Water works just fine. Now, if you're doing something like urethanes, of course, right? That's a different ball game. So that, and I know you agree there, Raul, definitely. Raul does some amazing stuff. Raul, your work is fantastic. And I just love what you're doing with color. And I'm telling you, your work is just amazing. I'm just blown off about it. Yes, distilled water, $2 a gallon. And David says his former Yahtzee will all know not saying for obvious reasons. He uses oh, something happened to your message, David. Wendy says, Raul, your work is so amazing. It is. Everyone, if you haven't seen Raul's work, it's out of this world. Um, So what I'm doing now is looking for these large shapes in these shadows and putting them in. They're kind of abstract, but as you work them and stick with it, they become much more defined. Oh, so my Extreme Patriot Arrow has a .30 needle nozzle combination. And you would think a .30 is not good for detail, but it's all how it's modified, right? So everyone who has gotten one of my Extreme Patriot Arrows, they all say the same thing. I can't believe the detail that this thing gives. Now, it's not like another airbrush company where, when you get it from the company, I actually tune this airbrush up for at least 3 to 6 hours. And I change so many different things. I double check and troubleshoot the valves, the air assemblies. A lot of times I have to change them to make sure that the airbrush is humming like a baby. Well, babies don't hum. Humming like a bird? Hum like what? I know when people say, oh, it hums like something. And let me get out of the way here and see. So right now it's just big shapes. That's all I'm worrying about are these large shapes, getting them, and then we can go and get more subtle. But right now it's just about big shapes. And then we'll put some magnets over here because we don't want underspray. Yeah, the Sotar, that's another great airbrush, which is the Sotar Slim, the 2020 Slim. That's one of the masterpieces of Badger. And with this, we just have to stick with it. So as you see, I started working on on this dress. I'm not going to do too much to it, but just have it established. And then you see I'm going to lift this up, and we're going to see what it looks like. But when you get the Extreme Patriot Arrow, when you work on it 25 psi with my inks, you're just going to get control and detail that you're not used to getting right out of the box with an airbrush. Okay, so you see, we'll zoom out and we'll see what we have. So you see how we have the beginnings of that? So we're not going crazy because we don't want to get too far ahead, right? That's not what we want. We don't want to get too far ahead. So we'll zoom in and we'll continue our game plan. So as I look at this, and I'm going to look at my reference, and I'm going to ask myself, what can I work on a little bit more? And I think I could probably work on the dark shadow here, some of the reflected light that's going on here. So let's see if we can make that happen. And I'm going to zoom in. We'll come up. And this is the area I want to kind of focus on. And what I like doing is just using my pencil, right? Use your pencil. Your pencil is really an important tool that you should be using throughout. And this should be a big relief to a lot of the airbrush artists out there. And so basically you use your pencil to shape this shadow that you're going to do, right? And like I said, it's not a shadow, it's a light that's less powerful, right? And you see how I shaped that? Now, why would you do that, Tim? Well, because when I'm going ahead and using my freehand shields to get that, at least I know what I have to do, right? As opposed to trying and do it like with just the airbrush alone, right? Yeah, I use golden paints. When I work in color, my paint of choice is definitely golden because it has an actually acrylic polymer DNA about it, and it's closest to the DNA that the fine artists use with their paints. Now I'm going to be about 4 inches away, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make sure that I get this contour from about 4 inches away. See that? And so I used a pencil so I could draw that in. Now I paint over that, and then eventually I can just get rid of those pencil lines. But now I have the shape of that cast shadow. See that? And you're much more accurate with the pencil than you'll ever be with the airbrush, because we've been playing with pencils since we were tiny. But I don't know anyone who's been playing with airbrushes when they were 3 years old, unless their dad was an airbrush artist or mom, right? So it only goes to show that we should be utilizing what we know best, and that's the pencil. And you can see that's dry now. So what I can do is I can take a very low aggressive eraser, non-aggressive eraser, and I could now erase that pencil line. And what am I left with? Just a beautiful, very intricate shape of the this contour, inner contour. And that's what you want. You want to have that, and it kind of fades over here, so we can fade that out. A lot of information going on in here, and we just have to pay attention to it. Skin texture happens from building up value upon value slowly. That's, hey Toons, how you doing? Good to see you. And so good to see you, Toons. Ultra Maga. Okay, sounds is that an art form or is that a political statement? So we're sort of politically non-biased here. Everyone's welcome. If you're a Republican, a Democrat, it doesn't matter. Art really is best, just to, enjoy each other's company and talk about what we love, which is painting, right? We don't really get to talk about painting in our day-to-day, do we? Right? That kind of stinks. And I want to get this dark here, and let's see if I can explore something to get this dark here. Let's see. Oh, that's really light, huh? Let's see. Okay. So let's see. I want to have something where I can paint the dress and still cover her face, so I don't ruin that beautiful, beautiful hard work we did on her neck there, right? We don't want to ruin that. Let's see. So that's not it. Yes. By Job, I think we've got it. Let's see. And as you all know, I did a pastel painting of this, so that's why you see I used this shield before. Okay, just want to make sure I get this correct. Okay, so I want to get this right here, this dark right here, so we're going to put this over here like so. Oh, thank you, Todd. Todd says make sure you give Tim a thumbs up. I really appreciate that, my friend. I appreciate you, Todd, coming and hanging out and being a Patreon member. Thank you for those who are Patreon members. I appreciate it. Even now, even more so, because now I'm doing 2 live streams a week. And so on Saturdays at 8, I started doing the live streams of pastel. Now I've been doing pastel for 20, more like 30 something years, and so there's a lot of knowledge, and I also teach how to use pastel and airbrush together. So if you like this live stream, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because you'll be alerted when I have my pastel live streams, digital airbrush, digital painting, digital art, all the different things that I have that I think, and once in a while I do videos, and once in a while I'll do an interview with someone an important person in the airbrush world, so that's always good. So you get a lot from subscribing to this, because it's a very diverse channel, a lot of great people, a wonderful community, and if you're into a wonderful community where you learn about painting and meet good people and know that there's not going to be too much foul language here. I did say the A word, I'm so sorry about that, but usually you're not going to hear bad words, and just positivity, you know, that's what I want. Be as positive as possible. Hey, Mr. Todd, thank you with the $10 super chat sticker. I really appreciate that, sir. Wow, that is so cool. Thank you, Todd. And even when you don't feel good, that is so amazing. Thank you, sir. I so appreciate that, Todd. And Todd's also a Patreon member, so that's a double wonderful, generous thing that Mr. Todd is doing today. Thank you so much. And that helps the channel, you know. It helps me, keeps me encouraged. Remember, I don't take days off. You'll see a lot of other live streams, you know, they'll be sporadic. You know, sometimes things happen, of course, like in Mr. Steve Leahy, there's, you know, unfortunately, there's no way avoiding that. But I mean, I try and be very consistent, no matter how I feel. But when I get one of these super stickers, man, that's nice. I mean, that really tells me I'm doing something right when you guys do that. So thank you for that. See how I was able to get that really beautiful dark there and keep that edge, right? And that's what it's all about, getting this cinematic look, you know. Blue, I hope you feel better. Take it easy and make sure you sleep somewhere where you have your finger elevated. And I know you're going to be better in no time. So sending prayers that you are 100% so fast that the doctors are going to be like scratching their head how fast you healed. That's what I really pray. And there we go. We're going to put this here and we're going to work on the other side. Remember, the hair in the beginning, all we're doing is we're just painting the helmet, right? We're not painting individual hairs. We're not even thinking about hair at this point. We're just thinking of large value shapes. Oh, sometimes the magnets will stick to each other. All right, we have this beautiful dark here. Let's make this happen. Put a magnet right here. No underspray. I like to spray away from the shield, right, from the edges. So if you spray away, what happens is that spraying away, you have less of a chance of the ink getting underneath because you're going in the opposite direction. And then we'll do this side here. Oh, we definitely have... Buy as many magnets as you can. You can never have too many of them. I never heard someone say, oh, too many magnets. No, more magnets you have, the more you're going to probably use them. Oh, my hat. Sorry about that. It's like, what's happened? Oh my God, something's going on in the picture. Nope, it was my hat. So it's a nice dark here. We're just going to push that, push this dark. Remember, we're still in what? The detail mixture. And, you know, with that detail mixture, Todd says, what did I do? I don't feel good. I think Todd accidentally gave a $10 super sticker. That's funny, Todd. So that's funny, you know, like these live streams, you can give donations. Any kind of magnets I prefer. These little ones, you'll see them, they're square, and they have a specific long name. They're really getting inexpensive. I love these little square ones. They were gifted to me. And then I have these, which are the little teeny tiny ones. The big ones are okay, but I find the little teeny tiny ones a little bit more effective. So definitely look for them. I think they're like $10 or something. And they're really strong, but not too strong. I have some that are so strong that it pinches your hands and you end up like in pain. So this is like some sort of, look at this one. These, you get these that are like these really, these are like, you hear that? The difference, and you hear that? I mean, this is so hard. When it hit, it actually cracked because it's so darn strong. So stay away from those shaped ones. And so yeah, definitely what I can do is I'll put a link in the description, okay, for the magnets that I bought just recently. Let's see. So I am going to go to my Amazon, and where are they? Where are these? Are them? Look at this. Something like these only like $13, and you get a ton of them. 300 of them. That's a lot, my friend. That is a lot. And try these. If you don't like them, you can always send them back. But let's come over here, back to here, and I'll put that right here. There you go. And hopefully that helps her. And oh, my pleasure, Marshall. Definitely. You know, the right things is really so important, you know, to get, you know, just to know the right products, and get what, you know, the people who are using it every day, right? They know, you know, I'm painting 6 to 8 hours a day, you know, so I know all this, you know, and so it's so important. So I will definitely continue. Any questions that you have on the magnets, and also this metal panel, they sell it. It's really quite inexpensive. I think it's like $12. It's like a metal bulletin board thing. And I think it's like 12 by 16 or something like that. Really great, and it's a perfect size to have on your tabletop or even on your easel. So I just love that. Now, I have to thank Steve Leahy. I used to use magnets, but not the way that Mr. Leahy uses it. He's a magnet master. And he's also, Steve is also the magnet master, and I never seen anyone use an X-Acto knife with the precision and mastery as Steve Leahy. And I don't endorse too many live streams, but I do endorse Steve Leahy's live stream because of how much I learned. And I still learn from his live streams. And not to mention, he's a great guy. And they're just very entertaining. He has a really nice culture in his live streams. And a lot of you are, you know, a lot of people from here are there, right? So that goes to show you that the same type of people that go to my live streams goes to Mr. Leahy's live streams. And but yeah, I learned a lot from him, and I still learn. So if you want to learn like really great fine art stuff, because he went to art school for many years, and he's the man. He's the man to learn from. Monday nights on Facebook, and just go to the profile Steve Leahy, and you'll see. And he's starting to have a YouTube channel as well. So definitely check out his stuff. Okay. So, back to Tim World here. Let's go ahead and pull this over. Remember, large shapes, right? Large shapes. We're working on the large shapes. So now we have only the hair. So now we can pull some of these large shapes over. Start working on the helmet, right? Not the, we want to work on the helmet. We don't want to work on the hair. So that's what we're doing. And let's see what I missed. And Gerald might be the only other person. Gerald, Gerald's a master of everything. He's one of the torchbearers, right? Over the years when airbrushing was in a sad state, it was people like Gerald Mendez and Mr. Drew Blair, Marissa, Cass Fuller. Those were the guys who were continuing that great tradition of portraits. Kent Lind does amazing portraits, just incredible. Super nice guy, Kent Lind. Just can't tell you enough nice things about Mr. Lind. He was one of the guys that really inspired me and kind of took me under his wing in the beginning. The late Steve Driscoll, incredible guy, just incredibly helpful to me. Corey St. Clair, really, really incredible artist. Really respect him. Javier Soto, Jonathan Pantaleone, those guys just kick butt. So you can't go wrong looking at those guys' work from an airbrush perspective, right? So let's move our helmet out of the way. I mean, look at our helmet. Come over here. Take your time taking off of these. Take off these magnets, and make sure that you don't move it, because some of the masking material can still have ink on it, and if you move it, you'll just sort of spread it onto your work, and that's not going to be any fun. There we go. Let's take a look. See how Miss Tierney is working. So you might say, Tim, it doesn't look like you're doing anything. Trust me, I am. But it takes time, right? Because we're building texture. We're building a lot of different things. So that doesn't happen overnight. And we have to work on that, and we have to build it slowly. But as we build it slowly, we get things like skin texture, things like that. I'm going to really quickly zoom totally in and get a really good focus. One of the ways you can do it with a DSLR is you can zoom in like this, and I can make it a bit lighter, right? And then I could quickly put it in autofocus mode, and see how I can do that, put it in autofocus mode, and that's going to focus it, then go back into manual on my lente, on my lens, and then I can go back in, and you can see how sharp my focus is now. Another reason why you want to learn photography is because it'll help every aspect of your work. When I do my live streams, I know about aperture and shutter speed and ISO to get the proper exposure for my live streams. And just another reason why photography is crucial. If you take my mentorship program, you will learn photography, and you will learn the intricacies of photography and how it applies to airbrush, right? Make you a better airbrush painter, but in turn make you a better artist. So I just wanted to get that crease in the arm there, see that? And now let me go ahead and secure my paper. We're going to darken her arm here a little bit, not too much. There we go. See that little crease? Now, the arm is a three-dimensional form, so if the light is coming from above and then partly from the right, you're going to have shadow on the far left, and that's what we're doing. But not shadow, just less light, because less light is hitting it, but light is still hitting it from the main light source. And that main light source is, the light is taking longer because it's passing by it and bouncing off of it. So that's why we're seeing that it's light, because it's very complicated, right? There's a lot of, it's not just a shadow at one value. There's a lot going on here. There's undulations of intense light and less intense light. And you also have it caused by anatomy of her pectoral muscle, of her breasts. All those different things have to be taken in consideration. But the main thing that we're always painting is light itself. So even though this might be considered a shadow, you're really painting light that is less less potent, so to speak. But it is still light because it definitely is not black, right? Shadow is black, complete shadow or absent of light is black, and that's not what we have. So we have to look at this in a separate way, in a way that we haven't before, or the way that the world doesn't see the visual elements. And that is, not only is it just, it's not light and shade, it's light and light. It's really what the light is doing at different parts of the body. And the reason why it's doing it is because it's less intense and it's more intense. So where it's less intense, you have less of the white. When you have more intense, you have more of the white. And as we're paying attention to this, as I'm doing this arm, you're going to see that I'm going to get a complexity in this arm that I wouldn't get if I was just like, I'm painting an arm. No, you're not. You're painting the light. And that's totally different. Let's see. Brad says, why spend dozens of hours on your work if you're going to just take an inferior photo of the finished work for advertising? Taking really great photos is another reason, because 99.99% of the world is going to see your work in what form? In a photograph. So that's another reason I actually teach how to take photos of the artwork. So eventually, you're going to want to show your work and share it with people like me who love your work and want to see it. So you want to learn how to take the best photos of your art, how to take photos for reference and stuff like that. All those different things are really going to support you as an artist. And those are the little behind the scenes things that really make everything better for you. And I want you to make money from your artwork if you're not. And that's something that I stress with my students, is that, I want you to work on commissions and stuff like that. Make a few dollars. Pay for all those wonderful art supplies that you are accumulating. Have your art supplies pay for themselves. And I am going to build up this value, so I'm not going too dark in that arm just yet, but you can see, just as I'm working this here, how we're beginning to get the three-dimensional qualities of her arm. And I'm a good distance away, maybe about 7 inches from the surface. And we'll zoom in again. Let's see. So where are we going to work? So looking at this, where would be a good place to continue to work here? Let's see. If I zoom out, that would help. Okay. So now looking at her, let me move this over a bit. And I would have to say we can do some of the little darks on her strap. That's what I was going to work on. So let's start over here. Some of those little cast shadows over here. And I'm going to bring in my reference. And we're just going to work on those dark cast shadows. Oh, my hat, sorry. You want to hit and move, right? You definitely don't want to stay in one area, because then you will spider. See, I had a little bit of spidering, so I can lower my air pressure a little bit on the pack valve. Micro adjustments, because I put that spring on there, and that's only with my custom Extreme Patriot arrow. That doesn't come standard. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy says she looks beautiful. I appreciate that so much, Wendy. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard. I imagine it was almost impossible to take a bad picture of Jean Tierney, huh? But look at the micro detail that we're able to do. Yeah, Cody says, I got to get a hat with a clear bill. So true. Or a shorter bill, right? That's a good point. That is true, Cody. Guilty as charged. Great. So now you see I have more dimension and I can come in even a little darker here. So when we do in turn zoom out, hey, what's up there, Jesus? You're back. Good to see you. That is great. I'm glad you made it back, my friend. And as you can see, once we're setting up for those lights, right? That's what we're doing. Setting up for those lights. And when we do hit those lights, things are going to explode in a good way. So let's see. What can we work on right now? I think we could, maybe we haven't been working that much on her forehead area. There's really not much to her forehead area in this photo. I don't like making things up, but we can maybe start working on her hairline. So let's see if we can make that happen together. Starting next week, we're going to introduce the light mixture. And the light mixture used to be the lightest lights in my method, but now I'm starting to use, I'm starting to get a little more detailed with the detail mixture, and I'm able to get much more subtle variations of value in the beginning. So then we come secondly into the light mixture, and then the medium, and at the end with the dark mixture. And you're able to get this such beautiful gradations of tone. It's really quite wonderful. And what I'm going to do is, you'll see, I'm going to start working on the blacks or the darks on the hairline there. And that's going to give the helmet some more form, right? Remember, we're painting the helmet, a three-dimensional kind of hard surface first, and then comes the hair, right? We don't want to do the hair prematurely, but what we want to do is we want to have the direction of the hair. That's crucial. If we get the direction of the hair wrong, then everything's going to be wrong. So we have to make sure we get the direction correctly. You know, Kitos, how are you? Good to see you, sir. So glad you made it. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Jesus says that the strap is looking good. Kitos, thank you for the compliment. He says she looks fantastic. Thank you. So that's great. Hey, Tone, good to see you. Just thinking about you, my friend. How's everything going over there in Queens? And again, we're looking for the large shapes and the direction of those large shapes of hair, right? Isn't that so important? The direction of these large shapes? They're crucial. So we have some of these hard edges that kind of don't belong. And what I like to do in a hard edge is, again, have an aggressive eraser. And right on that edge, I do a little circular movement. And you see, by going right on that edge, remember, aim is everything in airbrushing, you know? So aim with the airbrush, aim with the eraser, aim with the paintbrush. So you see how I get rid of these hard edges? So then when I come in, thanks, Tone, I appreciate that. Not bad, sir, working hard, just making sure I don't work too hard, right? We can work too hard and get burned out. So I'm kind of guarding against that, making sure, you know, at a certain hour, I'm done. I'm not doing any more work, no matter what's due, right? We're just one person. And you do a lot of work too, Tone, so I want to make sure that you're not burning the candle on both ends there, my friend. Make sure you get rest, because your one clip, you were doing unbelievable amount of work, you know? And so that's so cool. So glad to see you. Yeah, we got to guard against that. We have to be proactive against that, guys. Right? We don't want to, because then it affects our artwork, right? And we're doing this because we love it. So if you feel that, you know, if something is getting in the way of your enjoyment, we have to put the brakes on it or learn how to do that. It's not easy, right? It's not an easy thing. Yes, and an addictive personality, yes, but we definitely have to know when to step back, right? It's so crucial, so important. So you see how I got rid of those hard edges, and I'm just going to soften it up right there like that. And so, you know, in the beginning when we're using our shields to get the shapes, they're going to leave a hard edge, but we have to guard against being lazy and leaving that hard edge when we know very well when we look at it, it's not a hard edge. Oh, Keto says you wanted to say thank you, Tim, for your inks and the paper. I haven't done anything yet to use them. Busy gardening with the wife and kids. That's more important, kiddos, definitely. Cultivate not only the garden, but your relationship with your wife and kids. And you take care of that first, and then when it's ready for airbrushing, it's going to be so much better. I'll be right back, guys. I'll zoom out, and I just have to use the little boy's room. I'll be right back, guys. I am back. Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience. Nobody left, I hope. So Jesus said he'll be back in a moment. And let's see. Jesus says, what I meant to say earlier was it came out wrong, was that if your spray guns can pump thicker paints at low pressure, like 15 psi, airbrushes pretty much can do the same at a lower. Definitely, Jesus. That's so true. Grapefruit seltzer. I got it at Aldi's. It's really refreshing. Highly recommend it if you have an Aldi's nearby. And so cool. And yeah, balance is so important, Brad. I agree. And it's something we have to... Hey, kiddos! Thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. Wow, thank you, sir. And when you're ready to use those papers and those inks, you let me know. And, I'll coach you if you have any questions, And I just want to thank you for trying the paper and the inks. And you guys can all purchase that at inkflingers.com. And I sell the airbrush there and everything in the classes. But thank you so much. Like I said, Todd gave something, and I just want to thank everyone that supports the channel, either by buying artwork or taking the classes or super chat stickers like today, Patreon members. I mean, it makes such a big difference to me because, when you're doing this, you're kind of out in an island and living alone, not having, a family of my own, it really is very difficult. And really a lot of the only personal connection I have right now is like with my students and with you guys on Wednesday night. And it's just so encouraging because I know there's other live streams out there and you guys could be watching them. And just to take the time out to watch the live streams and also to support it like that really means everything to me. So you see how I'm making the helmet and I'm not really worried about the individual hairs just yet. It's so important. Thank you, Jesus, for that wonderful endorsement. And so true. It's so great with the super chats. It's so great. And hey, Brad, all right. Yes, we are ending this live stream on a high note. Bam, bam, bam. We have Brad and Kiros and Todd. Thank you so much for the super chat stickers. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I know that this live stream is going to make it, right? And I'll do my part. And, just keep showing up, especially when it looks like things are not happening. I feel it's so important to show up. What was that one phrase that was on my high school homeroom blackboard? Showing up is 90% of success. You guys feel that? No matter what happens, just continue showing up and being consistent, right? And you guys agree with that it's important to show up and to, keep going and good things will happen, just like the super chats that you guys have just gave me. And Brad says she's really looking great. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. And you can see we're still working on the helmet. And little by little, things are starting to happen, which I'm really excited for. But the trick is, now here's a good trick. So when you're doing a painting like this, you don't want to get so excited that you rush it, right? So we want to take our time and just slowly build it up. So we have a lot to do in the face, and part of me wants to go in there and attack the lights and come in with the light pastel and the darkest dark. But that would be too early, too soon, right? And so that's important. Oh, yes, that is a great phrase, definitely. Showing up is 90%, right? Wendy says, hope everyone has a wonderful week. Tim, this is one of my favorites that you have done. That means a lot to me, definitely. Because Wendy has been watching my live streams from the beginning, so that means so much. Thanks, Wendy. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you so much coming to the live stream tonight. And Mr. Todd says, don't forget to give the thumbs up. Thank you. Don't forget the thumbs up. Keto says, set the PSI at 25 or less at the air compressor if you have a MAC valve. Lower till you feel comfortable to minimize spidering. Great advice there, Ketos. Yes, it's so important. And 25 psi, set it and forget it, right? That's what's important. And let me see. There we go. So we're getting to the end. It's 11:26, but I'm going to give you the full 2 hours, and we're really going to finish this with gusto. And let's see. So right here on the side of her temple, I think it's a little hard edge. So let's zoom in with the power of the DSLR, and you see here I have it a little hard edge, but also I can take my least aggressive eraser and I could actually start to show that this is kind of a side plane that goes up, right? And oh, take care, Todd. So glad you're here. That's cool. And you see how I'm establishing the light hitting from the side. So this is still a side plane, and then it turns. So you definitely want to express the anatomy of her with the light and shade, right? The light is going to hit certain areas more directly. And even in this so-called shadow, which I call less potent light, it still has a lot of detail in it. So there's detail in this area, in where the so-called lightest area are. But in here where it's a little bit darker, there's still detail. So you want to make sure that you're cognizant of that, that you're working on the detail in both sides of the face. On one side, the light. Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate that. And Todd says he needs to get the detail mix for the white. Oh, so you need the detail mix, definitely. Let's see if we can work that out, Todd, okay? Definitely. See how we can get that out to you, okay? So I'm going to IM you tomorrow on that. Oh, so we're still working on this here. Let's make sure we get the variation of tones. And I think here I might have went a little too dark, so I'm going to do a little circular motion here. So while I'm actually doing these little circular motion, I'm actually creating skin texture, right? So I'm doing two things. I'm lightening it, but also getting skin texture. So that's why skin texture happens over time, right? It's something that you build up. You're not going to try and spray it all at once. It's something that comes slowly. And my school of thought is you're building it up as you slowly darken it from light to dark. You're building up these mini textures. And so originally we went in here to lighten these dark areas. Well, right over here. Where is it? Right here. Go down and over. There we go. So now I'm going to take my aggressive eraser like I did over at the hairline. I'm just going to aim right at the edge, the border of the black. And you see how I obliterate that hard edge? And now I can come back and make the edge that I want. But we have to get rid of that hard edge first, right? That's crucial. So let's get rid of this hard edge. Okay, so it looks like we hit our 2 hours. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the super chats. You guys are great. That is such an encouraging thing. And I hope everyone has a great week. And one question we have, Cody says, does the Patriot airbrush have the same size air connect as Iwata's? Yes, they do come with that. So I put that in there with every one of them. Actually, they don't normally come with, but the ones that I customize do come with the connection to your 1/8 Iwata air hoses. So, Cody, if you're interested, please let me know. And if you go to inkflingers.com, that's where the airbrush is. And I'll just put that in there, www.inkflingers.com. And if you have any questions, email Ketos another 10. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you. That is fantastic. Thank you for everything, guys. Thank you, Kiddos and Brad and Todd. Kiddos, thank you twice. I hope you all have an amazing week. And like I said, if you have any questions, you just email me. You can get my email at inkflingers.com. And take care, everybody. You all are amazing. Thank you for making my Wednesday really fantastic. I really appreciate it.